chamber is back in session, and before the chamber gives the floor to Judge Lavenge, I would like to ask Mr. Witness Promsarat. I would like to inform Mr. Promsarat that there is no duty counsel for you right now because he is busy with his own commitment at other place. During the lunch break, I have a discussion with my duty counsel. He thinks that I can testify on my own without any concern. President. So you mean that for the remaining of the session, you can testify without the presence of your duty counsel, is that correct? Answer, yes, I can testify. President, thank you. Now the chamber is give the floor to Judge Laven to put more questions to the witness.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Witness, before the break, before the lunch break, we were speaking about the fighting in Cambodian territorial waters. And I asked you questions related to Phu Quoc and Tochu Islands. But based on the information that I obtained, it appears that Phu Quoc Island has a Khmer name, and its Khmer name is Kohtral. And Tochu Island is called in Khmer Kok Krachak Sre. So, are the names Kotral and Kok Krachak Ses, do they ring a bell in your mind? And were those islands part of the hot battlefield between Vietnam and Cambodia?
Yes, let me answer your question, Your Honor. The situation in 1975 at Kohtral, there were no fighting. As for Koh Krachok Ses, which I look at the map, the name for Koh Krachok Ses is Romo Pangzong. I myself never been to those islands, but I looked at the map and I saw the two islands were within Cambodia's territorial water. And I look at the 1949 maps, which I do not know what country or which company produced that map. And I saw the longitude that reflected the two islands were within Cambodia territorial water.
Okay, so you are referring to a map dating back to 1949, if I understood you correctly. You're not referring to a map that is current.
The map I used for my training was the map that was drawn and produced in 1949.
Fine. And on that map, the islands of Kotral and Krachak Sre were islands that were in Cambodian territorial waters. Is that correct?
C'est bien cela.
Is that what I must understand?
តាមខ្ញុំ
Based on my knowledge of the of the of the drawing in the map, and as far as I remember, Kotral were on the other side of the drawing of if we talk about the north and the south side, on the north side of the boundary was Kohtun Sai, and Kotral was on the south side of the boundary. So I'm not certain whether Kotral was within Cambodian territorial water or not, because I myself was not an expert in map. I only used the map for my training session in driving the vessels.
Bon, je vais vous poser...
Fine. Let me ask you a simpler question even. During your training, what were you told? Were you told that these islands belonged to Cambodia or that they belonged to Vietnam?
When I did the training, my instructor did not mention which islands were within Cambodian territorial water and which islands belonged to Vietnam. My training was about traveling from Ô Chơ Tiêu to Polawai Chah, Polawai Thmai, or Rong San Lam Islands. So the maps that I used or referred to frequently were the map that covered the 4 islands I just told you.
Monsieur le témoin.
Witness, you were entrusted with a mission which was to patrol Cambodian territorial waters, and you just are telling us now that you were not told what the limits of these territorial waters were? Were you told that you could go patrol around Kotral or around Krachak Sre?
My task at that time I received the task at that time from the division level to patrol at the area near Koh Krachok Seh and Koh Thmai, not Kotral.
Bien.
Fine. Didn't you speak about Kotral this morning? Didn't you tell me that there had been some fighting on Kotral? Was there any fighting on Kotral?
As for Kotral, as I told you a little bit earlier, that there was no fighting in 1975. I did not go there by vessel or by whatever means. I only heard that the Khmer Rouge soldiers went there and they were banned by the Vietnamese and prevented them from returning back to Koh Thmai and Koh Krachok Seh.
So, you heard that Khmer Rouge soldiers that had gone to Kotral had been captured. Is that what we must understand?
ខ្ញុំមិនឮ
I did not hear that the Khmer Rouge soldiers at Kotral were captured. As I told the court before the lunch break, I told the chamber that the soldiers at Polawai Chah and Polawai Thmai Islands were captured by the Vietnamese and they were taken to Kotral.
Fine, let's move on to another topic. I would like to question you about the orders, the specific orders that you received regarding refugees and or Vietnamese fishermen who were caught in Cambodian territorial waters. Yesterday at around 10:43 in the morning, Council Koppe put a certain number of questions to you with regard to this topic, and he asked you questions about the Vietnamese refugees and fishermen who were on board a boat penetrating Cambodian territorial waters, and he asked you what instructions were you given if this happened, what were you supposed to do with such people, and you said, that was your first answer, that your job was first to take care of training at Uchatil, and then it was up to these servicemen who were stationed on the islands to deal with this problem. You said, with regard to the fishing boats or any other kind of boat penetrating Cambodian territorial waters, I cannot say anything about this because I was not stationed on the islands. So, is this what you are saying today? Did you receive orders personally, or was this something that was completely outside of your responsibilities?
My responsibility was not involved in those matters. I had a different responsibility, different from the responsibilities by those people. So we had different responsibilities. So each unit were not involved in the responsibility of other units.
Did you yes or no personally receive
Est-ce que vous...
Can you please repeat?
ជាចម្លើយខ្ញុំ
Let me give the answer to the chamber. I did not receive any order to do the thing that Your Honor have just raised.
So, how can you say that orders had been given to you at the division level? And were you aware of the orders given at the division level if you yourself did not receive any orders? How can you explain that?
ខ្ញុំសូមជម្រាបថា
when the upper echelon gave the order to the division level, and then the division informed the soldiers at various locations, and soldiers at the specific location that the situation need to be vigilant, they need to be ready to fight. They so that was how the information conveyed from one level to another.
Monsieur le témoin.
Witness, let me be clear with you. I'm putting questions to you related to the orders regarding people who were found at sea and who were either refugees or Vietnamese fishermen. And you told me that you received no orders whatsoever in that regard because that was not your responsibility. So how, therefore, can you say that there existed orders at the division level? How did you become aware of this?
Ou si vous n'en avez pas eu connaissance.
Or if you did not become aware of this, just tell me that.
Let me clarify that it was the information conveyed from the division to various hierarchy of the units to be informed of the situation. So it was the common practice that I used at that time regarding the order.
So, did you receive orders regarding how you must behave if you discovered refugees at sea or fishermen? Can you answer that question specifically? Did you, yes or no, receive any instructions in that regard?
Answer: yes.
Est-ce que vous pensez...
So do you believe that you contradicted yourself? Don't you believe that you said the absolute contrary only 2 minutes ago? So therefore, which is the true story? Is it this one or the previous version that you gave us?
Answer: I want to give my response yes.
So yes, therefore you received orders. And what were these orders about? What did they consist of?
Answer: I received orders, and the content of the orders were as follows. Divisions were communicated with instruction and orders by radio communication or telegrams, which were the forms of communication at the time. And the orders were to instruct all vessels which were on patrol in specific location to be on vigilance to the maximum. And they had to be prepared in all circumstances. after receiving order to possible consequences within their specific location they were in charge of.
Mr. Witness, I'm sorry to tell you that you did not answer my question. My question regarded the conduct that you had to follow vis-a-vis refugees or fishermen who were found in Cambodian territorial waters. You told me that you had to be vigilant, that you had to be ready to fight, but you did not tell me what you had to do with these people.
Answer. Concerning the question put by Your Honor, let me break it into two parts. One is about the implementation of instructions. I received instruction to be engaged in the training of driving or piloting vessels. Number two, I was instructed and ordered to be prepared whenever there were Vietnamese boats trespassing into Cambodian territorial sea of Cambodia. Regarding number two, I never received such orders and instructions. The instruction that I received was to an extent that the soldiers who were on the vessels needed to perform their assigned tasks, and they had to be ready to attack the enemies who trespassed into territorial sea of Cambodia. So it was not an obligation for me to go and capture the boats which trespassed into the territorial sea of Cambodia. As I said, I received instruction on certain matters. I am now telling the truth from my heart.
Fine. I don't know if I will be able to obtain more information from you. It doesn't seem that easy. But I would like to confront you with a document, which is document E3/227. This is a meeting of the Standing Committee dated 2 November 1975. And among the attendees, there was Comrade Paul, Comrade Noon, Comrade Q, Comrade Van, Comrade Vaughan, Comrade Dunn, Comrade Hem, and Comrade Yim. And the agenda of this meeting was the following. Well, it concerned the situation at the border and at the sea border, as well as related issues. Now, regarding the situation at the border, and more precisely at the sea border, the following is said. Regarding the situation of the islands, the Vietnamese carried out operations on Ses Island and shot at Kot Mai Island, and at the same time they deployed their soldiers on the small islands. So do you remember these incidents, witness?
Answer. From my thinking, the attacks and counter-attacks by heavy bullets or heavy firing on control between patrol vessels and Cambodian vessels, they happen on many occasions. I cannot inform Your Honor of how many times such incidents took place in that particular years. The territorial sea of Cambodia were trespassed into by Vietnamese troops, and also we were under attack by the heavy bombing, heavy bullets.
In this report, we can find once again similar information. This is at point 3, miscellaneous issues, subparagraph B, which is titled the matter of boats. And the following is said. We recommend that you report properly on the boats, regardless of the problems. Report on all aspects. Navigators and cargo propose to send everything away. In English, maybe the version's a bit different. Propose.
If there are any problem, propose them all. Crew and belonging, propose sending them all.
So does this ring a bell? Does that correspond to orders you may have received regarding people who were found at sea?
Answer. I want to testify before the chamber that in strategies and in trainings, there were guidelines, orders and instructions that I received during the training sessions.
Et alors?
And so, are these instructions in line with what I have just read out to you?
Answer. Yes, they are in line with what you described.
Bien. Et est-ce que vous reconnaissez que
Very well. And do you admit that this is something that is new in your statement?
Answer. I admit that it has something to do with the techniques and strategies, and at that time I received such instruction to be complied with on the vessels. As an example I raised earlier, if we needed to repair a machine, the machine did not work well, there was disruption regarding the machine operation, there was a clear reporting system. We needed to send the report to the division, after which there was a decision to me, and I, after that time, was able to ask my subordinates to repair the machine based on our proper technical skills. unless there was a decision from divisional level.
Mr. Witness, let me interrupt you because as regards the reparations of equipment, that is of no consequence to me. It doesn't have anything to do with the question I've put to you. I have confronted you with precise instructions, and the instructions were that you should send persons, members of the crew, and that you should send all of them. Did you receive those instructions, yes or no?
Answer. On the issue of sending crew members and equipment, I, at the time, in accordance with the implementation of technical skills, did not receive such orders as you described. At first, after listening to the question, it appears that the question wanted to ask about the technical skills, but then, after listening clearly to the question, it was the mistakes by crew members who were on vessels to implement such instruction. But I want to make it clear that there were no such cases happening on my vessels.
Bien, je ne sais pas ce que vous disiez.
Very well. I do not know what you are saying clearly, Mr. Witness, but I'll move on to another line of questioning. I would like us to talk about the training session, or rather the training sessions you attended at the military headquarters, and which were chaired by Son Sen. I have noted that in document E3/1143, that session was titled The Revolutionary Concept. Does that ring a bell? Was it a matter of conceiving of your activities as revolutionary activities?
Answer. From the experience of training sessions that I went through, I myself was doing my utmost to refashion myself to be in line with the socialist revolutionary stance, and the communism was to bear in mind in one individual, and we were to be responsible for our task assigned, and we needed to be prepared and to refashion ourselves to be in line in specific situation. And I myself was trying to have a good discipline in myself, for instance, to live properly in the society, to comply with the disciplines, and to perform the task as assigned. And these tasks were to be performed inevitably by those who were assigned.
Vous avez, avant cette formation,
Before that training in November 1976, which you attended, there was, and Council Coupe referred to that yesterday, a meeting whose minutes we have on record, and that was a meeting of secretaries and deputy secretaries of divisions and regiments that were independent, and it's document E13. During that meeting, Son Sen referred to a number of political lines that had to be followed, and he spoke particularly of conflicts that had to be managed. This is what he stated in particular. Free translation: we must control conflicts in Cambodia's current society permanently, because the conflicts between us and the classes of exploiters are more heightened than before, in the sense that they have more powerful, more authority than us. The translation into French is very bad. We have authority. He also says the following: we must control external conflicts vis-à-vis American imperialists. We are already aware of that. With Vietnam, the conflicts are more intense, increasingly more intense. There is a discrepancy between the French and the English. In French, it is said that previously there were enemies in conflict, but now they are real enemies. In English, this is what is said.
our friends, with whom we had contradictions. Voilà. Mais maintenant, c'est
But now, it is a true enemy. Previously, we didn't know their plans clearly, but now we know that they created in Vietnam, or that Vietnam created a party of traitors to attack our party. In future, they will not miss their objective. Now, did you yourself hear this political discourse to the effect that there was a change of policy vis-à-vis the Vietnamese, that they were no longer the friends of Cambodia, but they were now the true enemy, and that they were going to create a party of traitors to fight against democratic Cambodia?
Answer. In fact, under the guidelines and policy at the time, the upper level educated us on the issue of policy and guidelines to distinguish enemies and friends internally and from the outside. For this reason, I raised 2 points in the interview I gave to Long Dani. I can recall them. The first enemy was Yuan, and the second one was within the rank, those who were considered the traitors. That's the points I made mention in the interview provided to Long Dani, and later on the audio recording was listened by those people responsible and put into documents. This is my true statement, Your Honor.
Je vais continuer la lecture de ce document.
I'll continue reading out this document to you, and I'll also ask you to react to what I read. And it is still Son Sen speaking, and this is what he says, free translation. If we had left the population, if we hadn't evacuated the people from the town,
Si nous n'étions pas
we will not be at peace, as is the case today. If we hadn't created cooperatives, if we hadn't been absolute in creating socialism, we wouldn't have won. We would not be in peace. If we hadn't created the cooperatives, the Vietnamese would have all attacked us. End of quote. Does that remind you of anything you may have heard during the political training sessions?
President, you have the floor now. Council Ang Tak Guise.
Oui, Monsieur le Président.
Yes, Mr. President. May I request Judge Lavang to kindly remind us of the ERNs that he is using?
je suis désolé.
I am sorry. I had forgotten to do so. In French, the ERN is as follows: 0033 49 to 49 97 to 98. In Khmer, 000 52 407 to 408, and in English, 00 94 03 45 to 46.
Monsieur le témoin, est-ce que vous vous souvenez de...
Witness, do you remember my question, or you would rather I ask it again?
Answer. Could Your Honor repeat the question so that I am clear on it, and then I can provide my answer?
Bien.
Very well. I was reading out to you the minutes of a meeting which was attended by Son Sen, who was the chairperson of the meeting, and other commanders of divisions, including Miasmut. And this is what Son Sen said. If we had left the people and had not evacuated them from the cities and towns, we would not have the peace and tranquility we enjoy today. If we had not been absolute about making cooperatives and not been absolute about making socialism, we would not be victorious and live in peace. If we had not made cooperatives, the yuan would still have attacked us. End of quote. Does this kind of statement ring a bell to you as regards what you may have heard during the training sessions?
Answer, Your Honors. When I attended the study sessions, I indeed received guidelines, and I cannot guarantee that I am able to recollect all those guidelines I received on those days. After listening to your reading, Your Honor, it is a refresh to my memory that there were principles, guidelines for all of us to adhere to in order to ensure the victory and also to build our country in accordance with the socialism wanted by the democratic Cambodia, and it was the lines that we had to follow. For me, it is a refresh of memory from your reading, Your Honor.
Donc, si ça vous rafraîchit la mémoire,
So, if it does refresh your memory, does reflect something you certainly did hear. Is that what I should take from your testimony?
Answer. The fact is that during the 3 years that I went through, it was my experience. But the real situation was that I was disengaged in the work of cooperatives and then became a soldier. So I was not engaged in the formation of cooperatives and units or associations. I was assigned to be in charge of a naval unit. So I had at the time to perform my duties and tasks to my best ability, and I had to focus mainly on my assigned tasks.
Vers la fin de cette...
Towards the end of that meeting, we have what could be considered as conclusions, which include advice regarding the methods that had to be applied in order to identify the revolutionary lines of action. And this is what is stated. And I quote, "It is imperative to educate permanently, and we should purge bad elements at all costs as part of the class struggle." Absolutely. The ERN in French is as follows: 003349 82 to 83. In English, 0094 03 54 to 55. In Khmer, 000 52 413 to 414. Mr. Witness, did you hear any instructions consisting in having to purge bad elements at all costs in view of the class struggle? Absolutely.
Answer. To the best of my recollection, I myself was to clean what within myself in terms of mental situation, and I had to ask the question to myself whether I was satisfied with the revolution and I was stable enough. Concerning the guidelines and advice to my subordinates, I also instructed and advised them to clean up enemies within ourselves. We have to be clear on our own. We have to be happy to perform our tasks. So first of all, they had to cleanse what within them.
Monsieur, je comprends bien qu'il fallait...
Mr. Witness, I understand that you were not the ones you were not the one who had to purge the bad elements, but it was a question of purging the bad elements. And I believe one of the means adopted for implementing that policy was to collect biographies.
Dans toutes les unités,
In all units, we must reorganize the system, and we must control or master all biographies. Mr. Witness, were you charged with collecting the biographies of your subordinates?
Answer. Regarding the biography was to collect it so that all combatants had to give and verify biographies within the framework of common plans. So we had to declare solemnly our background, whether we were rich or poor. So biographies were for the collection of information of one's origins, where they were from. Biography were actually collected during the time of my leadership.
Monsieur le témoin, qu'est-ce qu'était une bonne
Mr. Witness, what was a good biography and what was a bad biography?
Answer. A good biography is a biography of one soldier with the following qualification. One is that soldier was engaged in the battlefields on frequent basis, and they had the competence to attack the enemies on the battlefields. Number two, it was about the living situation of a combatant, cadre, or a soldier. So the number two was to find out the origin of that person, whether they were former monks, students, or what their origins were. That was the purpose of collecting biographies. And after biography had been formulated, they would be sent to the upper level for examination. And it depended on what one stated in his or her biography for the upper level to decide.
Monsieur le témoin,
Witness, was mere mention of the fact that you had been a soldier from the Eastern Forces a good element in a biography, or an element that could have posed problems in a biography?
តាមខ្ញុំ
Answer. To the best of my recollection, there were issues of bad biographies and good biographies. It was my understanding at the time that there was a movement in the East led by Sao Phum, and the biographies were collected during the time of the movement. So it was my understanding that biography had to be collected so that it was clear to everyone that one was linked or not linked to the movement. For instance, the movement of Sao Phum.
Donc, monsieur, je repose la question.
So, witness, let me put the question to you again. If someone said that he came from the Eastern forces, was this considered as being linked to the Sao Phim forces, and therefore was this considered to form a bad biography?
Answer. To the best of my recollection, Your Honors, bad or good biographies did not depend on whether one was linked to the movement or not. There were other qualifications, whether they were competent in combat and they were able to perform the task as assigned. And also it had something to do about the origins of those people. Not all in the East were linked to the movement, and it was my responsibility at the time to include in the biographies of others and of myself about what was related to those people and also me.
Witness, you said earlier that all of the people who had come from the Eastern forces had been taken off the boats and been sent ashore. So what do you conclude from this? Why were they sent ashore?
To my recollection, the army was actually divided into two. That is one for Unit 140, and I was tasked to take charge of a vessel. As for the other cadres and combatants, they were tasked to engage in the rice fields and the plantations, that is for our own food supply.
Fine. What, according to you, does it is necessary to purge the bad elements at all costs mean? In the meaning of class struggle, what does purging at all costs mean? What would happen to the people who were purged?
Again, to my recollection for the class struggle, and that the embedded enemies had to be purged at all cost is that until an individual who refuse to implement the instruction, and of course this is as stated in the statement, the person was accused of being an embedded individual, and if that is the case, the person would have to be removed and sent to the divisional headquarters for re-education. And this is applicable to each unit. And this does not mean that any ordinary combatants could be removed and sent to the re-education center under the division headquarters at anyone's discretion. No, that's not what happened, and this is based on my personal experience and leadership.
And the people from the Eastern forces were part of the Navy. According to you, where were they sent? Were they sent to be re-educated, or were they sent elsewhere?
What I understand is that when that individual was removed from his respective unit, and where he was sent to was the responsibility of the division, and I did not know the means of how this was processed, or how that person was re-educated or was assigned another task.
Bien, j'aurai une dernière question, monsieur.
Fine, I will have a last question for you. During your training sessions at Phnom Penh at headquarters, did you ever have the opportunity of meeting someone by the name of Nat? That is to say, a person by the name of Inlorn, alias Nat. Did you ever meet this person?
I attended a study session in the Olympic Stadium, and while I was there, I saw Tanat, who came to replace Son Sen. I did not meet him, but I saw him there. He was at the podium, and I was with the rest of the trainees. I saw him, and I knew his face, but we never spoke, and I could not tell you about his character or his spirit of a revolution. I could describe his physical features. For example, he had a pale complexion and tall.
And do you know if there is a link between S21 and Tanat?
No, I don't. I was not tasked to involve in this matter, and it's beyond my function anyway.
Did you ever meet someone by the name of Kangek Iu alias Doik?
did not meet with Kang Gachil alias Dutch. However, I heard of that name.
Et quand
And when did you hear about that name?
I heard of the name of Kang Gachil alias Dutch when the trial chamber actually tried case 001.
je n'ai-
Fine. I have no further questions to put to the witness, Mr. President.
President, thank you. It is now appropriate for a short break. We take a break now and resume at 3 o'clock. Court officer, please assist the witness at the waiting room reserved for witnesses during the break time and invite him back into the courtroom at 3 o'clock. The court is now in recess.